Hi, Brian. Welcome. How are you?
Good, Vex. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you on today. Um, Brian is my financial advisor. Is that what I would call you? My financial helper? What do you call yourself?
Call me whatever, honestly. It's so funny though you say that. Everyone's like financial advisor. They've heard of the term, but no
Right.
one what exactly does he do? Because that
Right.
term's loose, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's what whenever I was getting a financial advisor, I was like, well, I mean, do I even need that? Like, what does that mean? But, um, Brian helps me manage my money, know where to put it, know how to save for the future, know how to invest in myself. And he kind of gives me the ideas of if you have money that you're saving, um, just where it needs to go instead of just like in a savings account, which is generally not where it needs to go. Although right now I think savings accounts are
They're better.
they're not bad right now, but that's beside the point. Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'm essentially again a financial advisor. What does that mean, right? Um, our firm typically, or at least my practice, like we really focus on investments, like keeping it simple, investments and what that means, right? Like everyone says, hey, I've got a 401k or hey, I've heard of these things. What we
Sure.
really want to do though is like, hey, this is what it is, like you understanding what it is and how it might actually impact you, right? From a tax perspective. And again, even if you have the proper accounts, like a lot of people are very few people can actually tell me what they're actually invested in, right?
Right.
Like specifically the actual investment within the investment account.
Right.
Um, we just don't want to take unnecessary risk, and it has nothing to do with age. We're just here to say, hey, look, if you've got something returning X amount of percent, here's the same thing that's returning that same type of percent, but this one is less risk. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? You know?
Absolutely.
Um,
It's funny you say that, just to jump in real quick, because like, just an example, because I don't think people understand. Let's say I was 22 and I really don't have a lot of money, but I could maybe get like $100 a month into like a Roth
sure.
IRA. What could that look like in 40 years? Like, is that math you can do, or is that a way, like, just give me an example of why it's important if I invested $100 a month for 40 years, what that money could look for
Oh,
retirement.
dude, yeah, don't mind me with my favorite app. My wife
Okay.
always,
Well, this is why I want people to understand. I wish I did not do this. I want to be clear. I did not start investing until I was like 37, 38 years old, and I'm still okay, I'm doing good, but I have to put more in to get the return, but if I had been
right,
doing this at 23, oh my god, I wouldn't even have
right.
to be worrying right now. Maybe
And
I don't know.
well, and it's funny you say that because again, like you gave me, hey, 40 years hypothetically, right? And
Yeah,
that's the part, right? Everyone has heard of this wonderful phrase, right? There's a joke that says it's one of the wonders of the world called compounding interest. And
sure.
and the just is just the earlier you start, the better, period. And it shows so significantly in the number. So we go, someone's investing $100 a month. And
Okay.
we're doing that. But yeah, start with $100, invest $100. Let's say we can get 10% return. Again, it's up there. You're gonna take some risks to do it, but even
Yeah,
if you like Google search, hey, the average stock market return, it's gonna show like 8 to 12%. Just depends on again
sure, that
portfolio,
seems
but
fair.
10% for 40 years, that $100 a month. Yeah, $100 a month, 560,000 plus for $100 a month.
Yeah, so you're putting 100 month in, and you could expect to have $560,000 by the time if I'm
40 years old.
22, I'm 62. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Crazy, right?
it's just
$100 a
basic
month,
math.
like, that's coffee, you know what I mean? It really is, like, for me. But, like, if you're buying your coffee out or you're going to 2 dinners, like, that's it. So, yeah, that's one
I'll
haircut.
give you yeah, I'll give you 2 more examples actually that because I've
Okay.
done this, like, so and these are pretty standard questions, but things that
Let's
are,
make
like, just yeah, yeah, well, so here's a cool one. So let's just say someone just had a kid, right? If you
okay.
put literally since $7,000 away, like, right when
Mhm.
your kid's born, you'll be a millionaire at, like, 55 using the
Oh
same
my
math. So, like,
wait,
7,000, like, it's insane, and here
like, you would give your one-year-old $7,000 or, like, ask everybody in your family instead of baby shower gifts and first birthday gift
Exactly.
and Christmas gifts to invest in this account just this first year because the baby has no clue what they're getting. You
Yep.
can have your child be a millionaire in their 50s.
Yeah, 55 if you started with $7,000 and it's same thing, same average, rate of return. At age 55, your kid will have 1.3 million.
And that's if
So
you don't add anything else to it.
$0.
$0 to it. That's if you just do that one time. Okay, see, that's what I was talking about is I think so when I first started talking about investing, so I'd be like, "I need to save for retirement." I'm like, "Okay, so if I put 2,000 a month and I wanna retire in 20 years, that's how many months times that amount of money?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I need more. I'm gonna basically have to put away my whole salary every year," but that's not how it works. That's not that money doubles and triples and quadruples, and that's why it matters.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, going back to like, yeah, the more time you have, the easier this becomes. And I think, and this is what we're talking about. You mentioned $100, right? Like that's very accessible for most people. Again, and maybe you need to scale back on the coffee or eating out, but this is what I
I mean,
think
even
financial planning has.
$50 or $500, like, whatever you can put in there is gonna be huge.
It. Well, and I think let's be honest too, it's about the discipline, right? It's the behavioral, like that's the biggest thing with all of this to me. I think financial planning is about is the you get a decision day. Like
Right.
what deserves to get time to get my money? And it just again, $50. It's
Right.
crazy what that could do
That's
over a
gonna be a
course of
huge
time. But
amount in
sorry,
time. Like, you won't
right,
even know
right. And again, right, exactly. But a crazy thing is too is even if you put no money in, historically, like money will double like every 7 to 10 years if you just do nothing.
you just put a chunk and let it sit. Like, if you do 100 and
Exactly.
then you're having a tough time and you have to stop for a year, that money's still gonna keep doubling. It's not just gonna all pause. You're gonna keep making money off the money that's already in there.
Correct. And it's kind of hard to fathom, right? But like, so yeah, and again, this is kind of like starting a higher number, but even if someone's like had, $100,000 in 10 years or 7 to 10 years, again, let's just pretend it was that same 40 years, right? Or even 30 years. But yeah, 100 turns to 200, 200 again to 400, 400 to 800, 800 to 1.6. Like it just takes
So
time.
100, yeah, 800 to 1.6. Crazy. Crazy. I love that. Well, so okay,
Yeah.
so here's where people get a little bit lost because when we're employed, we can do like our work retirement plan. But when we're
Sure.
self-employed, we have to take this on
Yep.
ourselves. And a lot of times we just don't. And one of the things you and I talked about was I thought I needed a retirement plan or account, but really your money makes money whether it's in a retirement account that you can't touch until you're a certain age, or you can put it in another type of an account where it's still making high interest money and you can pull it out if you need it for something important. Can you talk
Correct.
about the different options
Well,
where we keep our money?
yeah, and it's again, this is where, and I joke, as a human, like we love to make things way too complicated. Let's just be
Right.
honest, right? I think in the financial world, it's the same thing, and I can't stand that part of it. So our goal, like I said, is just to make this very, simple action item. So yeah, going back to what you mentioned, right? You can have, let's say again, you work for a company, hey, they offer like a 401k. Most people can identify with that term. Even if you don't have that option, and as you mentioned, like if you're a business owner, you can still set up like your own retirement account, and it might not be called though a 401k, right? It could be called an IRA, but it still has the same purpose for a later
Okay.
date. What you're also mentioning though is, yeah, what if, hey, I want to put money away, but maybe it's not deemed 100% for retirement, but maybe I just want money to be working harder. There
Or
are
I
those
mean, like,
types of
you wind
investments.
up needing it. Yeah, like, you wind up needing that chunk of money for something like a down payment on a house or something really important to you.
Right.
We can put it in other places and still make compound interest.
Correct. That's exactly right. And that's the key, right? Is just to make sure that people have the right type of quote unquote buckets, I'll call them. And so,
Sure.
we always tell people, I'm like, if it is, let's go back to, it would be $25 a month. Maybe you have three different buckets and each bucket had its own purpose. And again, depending on which bucket it is, there are certain rules, of course, whether, hey, well, I have to pay taxes on it. There's all these little things, but that's part of, again, the education side of it.
Okay, and like a bucket, for example, college fund for my child, retirement fund, and emergency fund, or like whatever that
Right.
purchase.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, again, another example. Yeah. So yeah, maybe someone has a 401k account through hey, my significant other has a 401k. Like that's an account for retirement. They have an IRA, which is theirs. They own it, right? And that could
Sure.
be a W-2 employee. That could be a self-employed, a business owner. And then as you mentioned, right? Hey, there's a college account. Maybe that's a 529 plan, which is just an account with a fancy name that is deemed for educational expenses, but does have great tax benefits when it comes to growth. It's pretty much free. Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. Okay, so my next question is, okay, so I'm coming to you. I'm like, Brian, I hear you. I want to start doing $100 a month. Where do I go to do that? How do I do it? Do I have to use a professional? If I use a professional, does that cost me money? Or can I do it by myself? What are my next
Sure.
steps?
The answer is yes to all of that, right? So, the obvious answer is you should call me, right?
Right. And
But
you're
yeah,
gonna
so
have that
prime example,
commission
right?
share. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things that we want. And again, I would clients actually just a couple calls this morning, and they're like, "Hey, I have stuff through my work, and also have stuff on my phone." And that's what's so nice about technology and where like the world is, right? Is we want accessibility and things that we can easily access on our phone, right? So, prime example, yeah, if it with a firm like us, sometimes we have accounts with Fidelity or a different sort of mutual fund company, right, or investment firm. Or sometimes people go directly to, let's say you can go to Fidelity's website and just say, "Hey, I would like to open up an account." There's Robinhood. There's all these different apps that are just kind of, more mainstream now, which I'm grateful for because again, it's
Sure,
making
sure.
investment just mainstream, which should happen. So yeah, in terms of cost though, that's where it gets challenging though, because it depends on what route you go, right? So if you go directly to, and let's say Robinhood, for example, right? Robinhood's biggest thing was, hey, we're never going to charge you any fees. But I will tell you, there's
They do.
always some sort of fee. Whether
There's
they're telling you
Yeah, there's
this,
lots of fees. I've
yeah,
done it. It's not a bad thing, but I'm always like, I'm paying
oh,
for this. What? $5 for this? $10, and it adds up.
for sure, right? And again, I made a joke of like, hey, you should call us. The reality is we just want you to have the information. So I give you an example. Like a firm like ours might charge you a planning fee. What's neat about our firm is that we don't have to charge you that fee, and we haven't done so in like 5 or 6 years. So, you know, I think in fact, this is something that you and I, is very passionate to both of us, where you just want to give information and spread it out because that's what we should be doing. We should talk about this stuff more. So, yeah, again, yeah, you can go to your bank and say, "Hey, I'd like to open this account." They're gonna, ask them, "Hey, is there a fee?" There's gonna be likely a fee to have it annually, just like a bank account. But, again, all these things are possible, whether it's website, go to your bank, call a firm like us. I mean, you have options. Just you need to go do it,
Uh,
you know?
Well, and I love to experience share just so you know, here's what I did. So when I started working with Brian, I'm not a huge detail person in the sense that I basically want to sit down with someone and say, okay, I want to invest this much money per month and I want it to make money and I want to keep it there. I don't know where to put it. I don't really care what it's invested in. I want it to be low to moderate risk. I want to leave it in there for a long time. So I'm okay taking a little bit of risk. And then I want him to send me some stuff to sign, tell me how to send the money over, set up a direct deposit so I don't even know it's coming back and be done with it. And so that's what I did. And so I personally do right now 2,000 a month um into an account. I don't know where. I send 2,000 a month and it comes directly out and I don't even see it coming out. It just goes and I have like a place on my phone where I can look up at any time, log in and see exactly how much money I have there, which I love. So at any time I can look at it. It's liquid in the sense that if I called Brian and said, I have an emergency and I need to pull out a chunk of money, he could be like, great. Are you sure? And I'd be like, yeah, it's really important. And then he would send, and
It
he would the money and I could have it like that. So,
it, it would show
working
up
with
next week.
and to be
Yeah.
clear, and I don't know, I mean, I'm assuming this is for everybody. I didn't like get on an hour-long call and owe him $150 for that hour of talking to him. Like I got on a call, I told him what I wanted. As far as being out of money, I don't think I've ever given you money to pay you. It just comes out of that account where I'm saving, like a small percentage or portion comes out of that account. So I never have to be out of pocket anything that I see. Like I don't owe you an invoice or a monthly
Right.
bill fee. So it's super
Yeah.
simple.
And again, yeah, not to like put so much of your stuff out there, right? Yeah, the reality is you're doing multiple buckets that we talked about,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
Certain,
running in different places.
yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, exactly what you mentioned too. I mean, in theory, it's your money. You can actually be like,
Yeah.
Brian, send me every account, everything, right? And as you mentioned, we would just have a small 5 minute conversation to make sure everyone's aware of tax implications, maybe
Right.
penalties, but yeah, and what we really talked about, and I think this is, where we'll likely be talking about later too, is what's important to you as a business owner is just having accessibility. And I want
Right.
that for all clients. To put me away for 30 years from now. That's great. But you
Right.
need money to be available now,
Right.
you
Well, and
know?
we feel like with retirement savings, like if you take it out before you're like what, 59 or a certain age, they take you lose a lot of the money as a penalty. Is that correct? Or you can't take it out at all? Or how does that work?
Right. Yeah. Excellent question. So that's where it gets a little confusing too. Cause again, as you know, like Congress loves changing rules, right? So the reality is, yeah, it's a retirement account. So again, I'm talking like a 401k, IRA, a Roth IRA, any of these things. Typically, there's a 59 and a half rule that states, look, you could touch your money all day long, but you
Sure.
could pay a penalty of 10% for touching your own money, right?
Right.
So, that's where, again, for us, the planning
Yeah.
goes to. And, I'll tell you this. I mean, clients say, hey, look, I want to put X amount of money into my Roth because, again, it should grow tax free, all these cool things. Or again, in general, I've met a lot of clients who are like, man, I'm good to go. In general, I feel great. My 401k's got a couple $1,000,000, but I'm like, look, if you decide to be, like done at 50,
Sure.
what's the plan here?
Right.
You want to pay a penalty on that. So yeah, again, every
You
business
never know where life is gonna take you. Like, or I mean, even like
exactly.
not to be I mean, it'd be great if it's like, I just wanna retire early, but some people have illness. Some people have like, there's reasons why or a sick family member or like a child or something happens in their life that requires for them to retire early, and you don't wanna think your money's locked up or prevents you from making a
Yeah.
decision that you wanna make.
Yeah. So man, I have to touch on this. Yeah, you said it best. Like things happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I joke all the time, or anybody that has kids, like, oh yeah, like we're hypothetically saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna invest and I'll have the same job for the next 20 years. It's gonna be great. And I have to remind people, I'm like, you have kids. Tell me
Yeah.
one day that went perfectly as planned, and
Right.
and let me know. Let me know that day because
Right.
I have no clue when that happened. So
Exactly.
yeah. And from a business owner standpoint, I think that's the key, right? You just want to give yourself as many quote unquote outs or options as
Sure.
possible because that's what business owners need, right? The flexibility. And
Right.
I'm this kind of crazy thing with business owners. I think there's a direct correlation of really successful businesses or business owners, right? The good ones really adapt to problems very well, right? They just keep things moving. So I think that's key right there, right? Actually, I'll say, I read an article that said moms make great business owners, and
Oh,
let's be
sure.
honest,
Because they
it
face
makes
challenges all day. Yeah. They face challenges all day long. Absolutely.
100%. So
I think that's true. So that's not to say you shouldn't have a retirement account. I think the point I'm trying to make is if you're scared to invest money because you think you can't get it back, there are
yeah,
options for you where your money can still make compound interest, still make a ton of money for you, but it's accessible without any type of fees or limitation. So
right.
just point being, just because you put it there doesn't mean you can't get it out if you have an emergency or need it, as long as your goal is to keep it in there long term.
Yeah, yeah, and again, yeah, I'll sign off on that all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reality is just know that yeah, everybody's situation is going to be different. But you touched on something I think is super important too. I mean, people have these plans, and then like you said, a family member, like parents, sometimes
Sure.
people get sick, and you have to change your plan. So yeah, whether it's investments, insurance, I mean, these are things that we just want to have the conversation with. And again, it's like the joke of hey, this is what adulting is like. Talk
I
about
know.
things that you don't really want to, well,
Yeah.
but um that's just the reality of life. Everyone who's old
Yeah.
enough has gone and seen it to where they
Yeah.
understand it's important. We have the
Well,
conversation.
and that's a perfect segue to our next question, which feels so adult, but it's so true, is life insurance. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have life insurance until I had Sophia. Simply because I was like, I mean, Mark will be okay. we'll help you just figure it out. He's not going to take my life insurance and get married to somebody else and have a great life.
Right, right.
Being petty. But no, I mean, it's just, I just hadn't thought about it. And once I had Sophia, I was like, oh my gosh, what if something happened to me or something happened to Mark and we're all of a sudden a single parent, and just the money that it costs to live and move forward. I got life insurance, and I didn't realize, like, I pay like $25 a month. And I want to say it's like $1 million policy or more. And that's so comforting to know that they would have that. So tell us what you know about life insurance.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you hit it right on the button that once someone has a kid, and I tell this to everybody, I'm like, look,
Yeah.
even if I've known them for like 10 years, I was like, look, it's no longer about you. Like, we're getting so yeah, for me and our team, it's like, look, it's kind of a non-negotiable because I
Sure.
look at it. It's not about you, number one, but number two, when you think about it, your best asset is not even your investment account. It's
Sure.
their ability to make money over a duration of time. So, you had joked with Mark and, again, everyone I do believe needs some sort of insurance that I think they personally
Right.
own and they're not relying on, "Hey, I've got my employer's benefits and, my
Sure.
response to that, because we do get that all the time. The pandemic happened. Like a lot of people
Right.
lost jobs and then it's like,
Sure.
so yeah, when it comes to insurance, and you had talked about it, you're paying X amount, per month. I mean, the goal is to say,
Well, it's
you know you
low.
want,
If you're
and it's a
young.
matter of fact of
Yeah. And if you're young, life insurance is like almost $0. Like, I
gee,
think
yeah, yeah.
like $1 million policy for like $14 a month, right? Like, it is like low,
It's
low, low when
flexible.
you're
For exactly, and let's take that. Yeah, so there's a correlation obviously to the younger you are, technically the healthier
sure.
you are in theory, hence why it's cheaper, right? So, yeah, so for every client, I'll normally ask, and again, with families, it's pretty easy. I just ask a simple question, and it's not meant to be dramatic, but it's like, on arguably the worst day of your family life, like, do you want them to be protected? It's an easy yes for most people, right? And then it goes back to, like you said, now let's figure out what makes sense from a budget standpoint. So yeah, if it's like 25 bucks, even if it's like 50 bucks, but again, it ensures for the next 30 years potentially that your family is
Yeah.
good and you don't have to worry about that, then I'm just saying it's probably a
Yeah.
good cost. You
Sure.
know?
Well, I mean, we insure our
Um,
car, we insure our homes, but then life insurance is optional. I've always thought that was so weird.
Thank you for saying that. That is like one of my crazy
Yeah.
and that's the crazy part, right? And again, right, there is different types of insurance, so I'll kind of address that. There's three main types, right? There's term, which is normally going to be the cheapest one, which just
Mhm.
means term is temporary. So again, they're willing to make that bet, that insurance company to say, hey, look, we'll charge you this small fee and we'll say, hey, if something happened within the time frame. So, 10 years, 20 years, sometimes I've seen 32 is the normal duration for these policies. But as long as you pass within that time frame, they will do their part and pay out that
Sure.
benefit.
And
Past
honestly,
that
that's
point,
all
there's
I
different
have.
types
I
that
know
are more
there's better
expensive,
ones.
but they do offer. Sure. Right. And that's obviously something that, we've talked about that, hey, we need to, we'll
Yeah.
have those discussions. But,
Yeah.
and it,
Mhm.
again, at least though, like you said, everyone should at least have something temporary for peace of mind, especially if they've got a business or a family or just anyone that's relying on their income, right? But yeah, there's more expensive options that offer other benefits. So again, some insurance policies where, hey, I'm going to put money into it. It is insurance. And then the reality is, hey, I'm also going to have cash back
Sure.
that I could take out later in life if I,
So, like, if you
don't
pay
need
pay
this
all the
policy.
money.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice too. And then there's other policies. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, so there's clients of mine that, they're like, hey, I'm 65, I've retired now. Do I need all these insurance policies? And I just ask them, like, look, if you passed away tomorrow, you have all these assets, maybe you want to leave it for your kids. Some people cash out the life insurance and pay off their house. I mean, you have options. But again, that type of insurance does cost more per month. But I'll tell you what we've really seen is long-term care. Sometimes new policies now, you can have life insurance and it can also be used for long-term care. And people like that are older feel better about that because, I
Yeah.
mean, there's like a 70% chance something will happen and you will need some sort of assistance in your
Sure.
lifetime, like 70% chance. Kind of decent.
Yeah. My mom had
But-
care of my grandparents and, you know, they didn't have long-term care. They had other things, but they didn't have long-term care, and so instead of being able to just hire a bunch of people to help, my mom had to be there, like, all
Sure.
the time, which she probably would have anyway, but just, it took away a lot of the options, and so that's why
Yeah.
I choose, like, "Okay, I need long-term care because I don't want Sophia to have to take care of me.
Right.
I want her to be there, obviously, but I want her to have the help she needs to do it." So,
Yeah, and you just said it, though, right? Like, normally people go through things and they realize, "Okay, now this is important to me." And so, yeah, I mean, and we just ask that question. If someone doesn't wanna get it, I'm like, "Hey, our fiduciary responsibility is just to say we have
oh,
this conversation at least once a year." But like you said, if you don't have a plan in place, then like you said, someone's gonna have to maybe stop working to take care of someone, and then we also know that that impacts the other family members, you know?
oh,
So, um,
absolutely.
the ripple.
Um, so if I were coming to you or not coming to you, if I'm like, "Okay, I'm hearing you talk about life insurance. I need it. Where does somebody even get life insurance? If you were to sign me up for life insurance, does that cost me money? Like, do I need to pay you to do it, or how does it work? Like, if I'm like now I'm thinking, okay, I want to know about life insurance.
Right. So honestly, like, man, insurance is so easy now. Like, you can literally go online and
Okay.
just say, "Hey, I want to buy life insurance," and there's so many websites that can literally walk you through it. Right. I'll give you an example too. Some clients are like, "Hey, I've got my auto insurance through, let's say, State Farm." Like,
Okay.
State Farm will sell you a state
Like,
insurance, life insurance. So yeah, I mean, pretty accessible. With us, we use like maybe 10 different carriers, and we do that because we're not selling you our product, which I kind of joke and be like, what makes this amazing, right? Like, we're not selling you a product of ours. We're selling you the best product that makes sense from a
right.
cost
Yeah.
perspective, maybe some medical history, and this company makes more sense. I mean, so yeah, I mean, easily though, you can get a policy just by even going online. But again, there's a step-by-step process. They're gonna ask you health questions.
Right.
You might have to do a medical, questionnaire. You're gonna have to do a medical exam perhaps, but I do think, as you mentioned, the younger you are, this should be a
I
non-negotiable
think,
because you're gonna care about
yeah,
it
they
at
don't
some
even
point
make
in
you
your
if
life.
you're under a
Why
certain age.
willingly pay more money for something that you know that you'll likely need, you know?
Sure. Sure. I love that. Um, cool. I mean, all that fun life insurance, retirement. It's kind of like you don't want to think about it, but we're all worried about it because, especially with self-employed people, it's important to start thinking about it now, and even more important to think about it when you're young because you'll be so far ahead of the curve if you're already doing it. Do you have any other like tips or tricks or any recommendations for like knowing that a hairstylist is going to be self-employed and say they don't have any type of retirement savings, no insurance? Like, what
Sure.
are some of your suggestions? Like, how do you know how much to save, or how do you make these decisions?
Yeah, honestly, it's just a conversation, and I think again, right, we could pretend that like, hey, every person should do the same thing, right? But that's just not how the world works, right? We have different concerns and different, again, multiple kids on one person versus one kid. So really, we just ask a bunch of questions. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but our first meeting is normally like 30 minutes, and it's just an interview asking you like things that might be important to you. So if I go the business owner route, um, and I'll kind of touch on the investments in insurance, but investments, like I said, I mean, when someone says, "Hey, I'm self-employed, I've got my own business," I think it's pretty important cash flow. Like, there's nothing more important to a business owner than cash flow. So, it's like, hey, can we protect these concerns now? And then again, we can always revisit them and change them and make them better. But again, how do I just make it that we have peace of mind when we can sleep at night? Well, investments and insurance, but we want to try to set up a foundation where you have all these things in place that it's just very easy for you to, how do I say, kind of like a video game, like what's the next level? What's the next layer up? So, as we talked about, maybe someone's like, I want to invest 25 bucks a month into these types of accounts. Great. As soon as you've now leveled up and income's even better, it's just so much easier to say and make it more real to be like, hey, Brian, now I want to, boost it up to 50 bucks or 100 bucks a month. Like, but again, because you have everything in place,
Right.
so, um, so yeah, like I said, that's the easy thing. Our goal essentially is to hopefully make your life easy again by having conversations. We've got essentially four members on our team to essentially send you all the documents, like you said, right? Hopefully, and I kind of joked about this. I mean, we're all so busy being business owners, but I think it's important. I'm like, give me 30 minutes and then we're
Yeah,
good for like the next month.
right.
Oh,
Sure, it's true.
so yeah, I really just care about forward progress, but even if
Mhm.
it's 1% at a time, I think
Yeah,
that's okay, right? Because it's got to make sense. Timing, that timing's the most valuable
right.
thing to a single person, especially a business owner, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, even 15 minutes. I mean, no joke. We've now converted to, hey, an hour long is maybe what we'll block off. Most meetings are 30 minutes. We're fine with 15 or even 5-minute meetings because, hey, sometimes I just need a quick answer from clients. So,
Mm.
uh, and so, yeah, and most of our meetings are on Zoom. I mean, let's be honest. We want to save people
Oh, yeah,
windshield. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I have some clients that just love coming in. I think they're just like getting out of the house. Maybe that's it, right?
right.
Um, but yeah, I think the goal is again, yeah, just to have a conversation, write down again, as you would for a business owner, like, hey, what do you want to do? Like what route, what industry, what goals do you want to accomplish? How important it is to write those things down. We're gonna do the same thing and maybe set up tiers for you to make these again more real. I'm not a fan of ideas. I want
Mhm.
to make things
Right.
real, which especially in this world, you want things real to, again, as we talked about, right? Hey, invest for 40 years, $100, got over 500,000 and I didn't even realize it.
Right, right. No, and my thing too was I just wanted permission to spend my money. Like, I didn't know how much I could spend on a house. I didn't know how much of a car I could afford, and I well, and by saying, "Okay, I'm sending $2,000, $3,000 to you a month, and I'm putting X amount in a college fund for Sophia." Not that I have to, but I like the idea of it, and I'm doing those 2 things. I feel free to spend my money, or to save it where I want to, or to
Yep.
build a pool if I want to, or to buy whatever because I know, okay, I've planned for my future. I've planned for Sophia's future. And now this money can be, or pay off my house or whatever. Now I can use this money because I'm not like, well, should I be saving it? What should I be doing with it? So I think it kind of brings a sense of freedom to have your life insurance, your investment for your retirement or for however that looks, like where you have some money put aside for an emergency and, taking care of your children and then the rest is yours, and that's fun.
I love how you put that. And that's again where the misconception is, right? I have so many clients that are like, hey, I don't think I make enough money to work with you, or, hey, if I talk to you, like, I'm not going to be able to like live my life. And so, kind of a sad story, but like my dad passed away pretty young. And so
Yeah.
that completely changed how I looked at this industry. And so I tell clients very similar to what you said. I'm like, as long as there's no major gaps in your plan,
Sure.
just work right now. And of course, as life happens, good or bad things, like we'll adapt and adjust like a business owner should. But exactly what you said, though. I'm like, if we have no gaps, please go spend money and enjoy your life because again, nothing is promised, right? Like there
Sure.
has to be that balance. So
Yep.
so yeah, that's I think the misconception. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to have fun. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know,
I'm not gonna tell you what to do with your money. I'm just gonna tell you where to put it when you tell me how much you wanna put away. Yeah.
exactly. Right,
That's
exactly.
basically
Yeah.
how it's
Yeah. Hypothetically, if I'm you, this is what I would maybe do. Right.
yeah. I love that. Um Finally, how can someone reach you if they wanna work with you, or they just wanna reach out with a question? What's your best contact? And I'll put this
Yeah.
in the
So
note, everybody.
awesome. Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. Yeah, we're super simple, right? And so I'm a big email guy
Right,
only because let's be honest, right? Like you can call me or again, even when clients are like, hey, call my friend. I'm like, I don't want to call your friend. Like I'd rather and here's why though. Like who answers their phone when we don't know who like let's be honest, right? So we're huge on email. Again, either, one of the assistants will see the email and we'll just set up literally just like this Zoom call, right? 15 minutes. And maybe we'll just see, is there a reason to continue talking?
And
That's
anybody, like, there's no, like, "You need to make X amount of dollars." This is literally anybody who would like to create a game plan for their future and for their money.
100%. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. We see ourselves as coaches, right? And so being a business owner, being in the corporate world of, being W-2, I mean, we're fairly familiar, again, just based on our clientele, like of
Sure.
different scenarios. And so as you mentioned, if it's like a 15-minute conversation to see if we should book another 15-minute conversation, like that's the only thing at risk, right? And so, the goal is education and hopefully saving people the life tax, right? So, um,
Well,
but yeah, email again, you have my office number. And again, there's either way that works for you. We're getting the ball rolling in the right direction. But yeah, I'm big on just 15 minutes. Hey, let's have a conversation and see if it
oh,
makes sense to
I love it.
talk.
Now go ahead and say your email just so I don't shoot out your personal email.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Verify I'm giving the right one.
No, no, you're good. And again, yeah, I'll make sure that you have our website. You can check out all our reviews. My email though is it's essentially my name, right? So it's B for Brian, A is in my middle initial, right? And then Pablo. So BA Pablo at firstcommand.com. And so First Command is the firm I'm at. And again, check us out on the internet and just check our reviews. And just again, we want to make it as easy as possible. So yeah, and again, it's just I really like to emphasize again spreading the education and information. I mean, I've done it for a decade and a half now. I'd see I'm like, I've got some initials that no one really cares about. It just the proof is like,
Sure.
hey, like we're about this life. Like we really
Yeah.
believe in even for ourselves for continuing education because again, Congress changes rules on how accounts work, how they'll be taxed. These again are reasons why people should always have some sort of conversation with a financial advisor just to make sure, hey, what I'm doing, does it make sense? And
Right.
am I allowed to do it?
Right.
Per rule.
Right.
Uh,
No, I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us. I think this is really helpful, just to kind of get rid of some of the fear and anxiety around money and around
yeah,
what to do with it when you're making it and what to do when you're not making it and how to plan for the future. So we really appreciate you. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Brian's wife, Crystal, owns a really awesome studio in Georgetown, Pilates, amongst other things, recovery. You guys even do some dance classes. And so she's just a badass entrepreneur too. And I met her teaching Pilates or teaching Legree, and so he's, I'm trying to bring in people who are entrepreneurs themselves. We've had a lot of female entrepreneurs, but all of my men so far have had wives that are female
yeah,
entrepreneurs. So it's kind of, I think it helps you to give us the best advice possible.
for sure. Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. Obviously, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, we're just to help people out. It's what we're here to do on this earth. So
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Brian. We will talk to you soon.
definitely. All right, take care. Appreciate it.